Oops. Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're here. We're just gonna have a brief conversation about Zodiac. I'm here with Hillary. Thank you for being here.
Hi,
Thank you for doing this. This is
of
great.
course.
As I mentioned before I hit record, this is just, I love to do this type of stuff. I love to have conversations about natural things. I love like planet Earth and the universe and things like that and how it all intertwines and connects with each other. I love it. So yeah, there's I looked it up. So before we started this call, I looked it up. I just did like a quick Google search, and it
Mhm.
basically said that zodiac is or means the heavens, basically. Very basic, um, but broad, of course. Like there's so much to it, so much packed
Yeah,
into just that phrase. But that's what it is. It's the heavens outside of well, within our solar system, but obviously, we can see the sun, moon, and the stars, but the constellations. So yeah, what do you? How far? So you just dived into zodiac. What drove you to it?
So, in I think it was 2020 before COVID happened. My grandmother was she had Alzheimer's, so we had to move her to a nursing home, and I was not even near. I didn't. I was basically a self-proclaimed atheist. Just no spiritual beliefs whatsoever. Astrology was always, even as a teenager, I was kind of drawn toward it, but I didn't take it seriously. It was just more for fun.
Hmm.
And I started to go visit her. And as I was driving to go visit her, for some reason, it just kept coming up, and it was coming up through synchronicities. I'd go to a coffee shop and someone would come up to me and start talking about astrology. And I just felt like something was guiding me toward looking into that more.
Yeah.
When she passed away, there were like I think there were three asteroids that came closer to planet Earth's atmosphere than they had before. And that was a big deal. And so there were just little things like that that kept making me feel like she was kind of nudging me toward like being a little bit more open spiritually.
Yeah.
And then I had a spiritual awakening, and it was just like,
Mm,
nonstop since then.
that's beautiful. That's a beautiful thing. I think the universe and family members like communicate. Me personally, I don't know how. I don't really know exactly what's true and what's not as far as how it all works, of course.
Yeah,
But there's so much to it, and I think it's so important that people pay attention to these things because there's so much to it.
there is.
You said like you weren't if you didn't feel compelled to look in a direction, you would have missed the signs. You just would have never really connected certain things, and so
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
yeah, I
And I
think
think the vulnerability at that point too, I was losing. She was like a mother to me, so I was very vulnerable, and I think that I was more open to receiving those messages in a way that I wouldn't have been before.
yeah, yeah. So how far did you was she into it? Was she like
I don't I don't know. That's the funny thing about it. I'm not sure. She was, born in 1935. So if she was into it, I don't think she would have talked about it.
yeah,
Because my grandfather was like hardcore conservative, and I actually did his chart for him before he passed away, which was really cool because he
hmm
just doesn't, he didn't believe in it at all. But I
yeah,
don't know. So
yeah. So
yeah.
so you do so you're into like so the I'm in the dark about a lot of it. I'm just recently hearing about like the rising and
Yep.
the I think there's another one, right? So there's like a rising and a
The descendant.
descendant, yeah. Um
Yep.
so what's your understanding on that?
All right, so this is complicated, but
Yeah,
but on a trying to keep it as basic as I can. When you see your birth chart, the wheel, which is like the circle, you've got all these like lines and numbers on them. Most people look at it. There we go.
I
Exactly.
love this book.
So so that's a natal chart, and the phrase "as above, so below,"
Yep,
right?
yep,
So your natal chart is your life mapped out from the second you're born. And so you have to read it like a map.
Mhm.
So the ascendant is where you're going, is how the ancients would look at that. And everything has been developed. I mean, astrology hasn't changed for thousands of years.
Mhm.
This is all Babylonian. The Babylonians really, gave us astrology. Alexander the Great,
Mhm.
through his conquering, found it and brought it back to Rome.
Mhm.
So it's pretty cool because it really is untouched for the
Yeah.
most part. So you're looking at a map when you look at your chart, and your ascendant is how the ancients described where you were headed in this life.
Mhm.
Your descendant is where you're coming from. And this can be on a soul level. This is why I love astrology, because there's people who just do soul astrology, who talk about like your past lives and,
Mhm.
on a more esoteric level. But then there's astrologers who can really focus on this life and help you with events that are happening in this life.
Mhm.
So it's a map. So you've got your ascendant, your descendant. So your descendant is more about like what your soul has already experienced, what you're already very comfortable with, and don't need to work a lot toward, because it's already there in you.
Mhm.
And then you've got your midheaven, which is at the very top of the chart in the center. And that is, how people see you in this life. And below that is the IC, which is more your very private self that you don't really show the world.
Mhm.
So somebody might not even know you by your IC unless they're like very close to you, and a husband or a child, or just a loved one. So that's the part that we tend to keep very hidden.
Huh. That's
Yeah,
interesting. There's so
yeah,
much, like you said, there's so much
there is.
packed into that. Like, and I mean, I'm sure you could break it all apart and go so far into them, but yeah, that's crazy. I've heard of that, but it's just been kind of like, it's so much. I haven't really looked into it because it's just so much about zodiacs, and I'm like, there's other people who do that, like yourself and many other people who look into zodiacs and really study it and understand the charts. They know how to read them. But me,
Yep.
I'm like, I know there's so much there, but it's just too much for me to go into.
It's a lot, and it's one of those things where people find astrology and they'll read one book and they think that gives them the authority to read for other people, and it's not even close. So you have to be really careful. Like, my friends will reach out to me and send me TikTok videos, and I'm always that person that's like, I am really sorry, but that's awful advice. And these are, and I get it. It's very exciting when you find something. I have never found something spiritually that has resonated with me like this.
Mhm.
So it's very exciting, but you have to pull yourself back on the excitement and humble yourself and be ready to just learn as much as you can.
Yeah, because that's the thing is experience with it as well. It's not just information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's something
Yeah.
like that. Like you said, a spiritual awakening is not reading a textbook. A spiritual awakening is actual experience, and
Yeah.
it's like a transforming of the mind, basically. A door
Yeah.
opens, and
That's
you're in
right.
a different, if you want to say portal, but you're in a different realm of your mind, and you're accessing information and resonating with information um, that some people can't access at the place they're in. But so this book is very interesting. It's to me, it's a tough read, but it's a very interesting book. Um, I mean, I thumb through it like every other day. I'm like marking it up. There's so much, and it explains how I'm big on like the human body. I love studying the human body and chemistry and physics and things like that. This and the zodiac, like you said, it all connects. It
Yes.
all connects, and how you're born. There's like deficiencies of how you're wired, basically, how you're chemically designed, and that's why it holds truth to it.
Yep.
So the zodiac holds truth because of the deficiencies, or just the differences chemically within the body. So my personality is the way it is because my chemical makeup,
Mm-hmm.
time I was born, and where the planets were, and how much energy was pushed on planet Earth. Is that kind of, so it's very
Yeah.
accurate, right?
Yes.
Time,
Yes. And on like a very broad level, that's how I like to talk to people about it, is like your chart and astrology, it's just the energy around. So if you're looking at a specific event, you can see what energy was building in that moment.
Yeah.
Now, a natal chart, like, you know, there are things in life that can change your path. So some people would talk to an astrologer and say this is complete bullshit because maybe they don't get it exactly correct. But how could you? Like, this is all just energy. And what we just talked about with a spiritual awakening, if a person never awakens spiritually, their natal chart's going to be a lot different than if they had, because it's all in the psyche, and it's the energy that people either allow in or push out, and then external issues come forth if they're pushing it out or not accepting it, you know?
Wow, that's crazy. And that's so true. That's so
Yeah.
true, because we have I believe we have that conscious calling, that spiritual calling or awakening that we're all unfortunately are supposed to move into. Because of the way the world is, we have to move into it instead of be in it, you know? Our
Yeah.
condition, the way we're born and the condition that we're in, we have to actually pursue it.
That's right.
Unfortunately.
That's right. Yep. Unless you're blessed with a family who's very connected and in tune, and they can, you know, pass it on to you, which is not the experience of most, especially Western people.
Right. Very true. That's why I love doing these things. That's why I love having these conversations. I just love it for that reason. Exactly. Just to get some more information online, period. Good information like this. It's just so beneficial. It's beneficial for me to have a conversation with someone like you, and whoever's going to watch this. Hopefully they can get something from it. And, you know, that's the whole goal and the point of these things. But yeah, Zodiac is so amazing. So I'm a Pisces, and I know there's like a lot about me that I resonate with, as far as like about my sign, I should say, that I resonate with. So yeah, and I'm sure a lot of people see the accuracy in the zodiacs. It's just so crazy how I am spiritually, and I can't shake it. It's like a thing that it's just me, you know. I can't shake it.
Yep.
But there's like,
This is a very Pisces, that's a Pisces trademark, you know. Pisces is the last sign in the zodiac, the 12th sign. So we associate a Pisces with somebody who is very attached to what happens after this, whatever realm, you know, or whatever we want to think of as what happens when we pass. The Pisces has just come from there. And they, in weird ways, they remember it, and they're very in tune spiritually, or very fascinated by spirituality.
Yeah,
you know.
definitely. Definitely, hands down. I cannot argue with that at all. I wouldn't want to, because this is beautiful. I love it. But yeah, there's just so much to unpack here. Have you? So this book, it communicates so much to me, and
Okay.
so the colors, like the colors of the rainbow, I haven't dived too deep into understanding that. Even like the rainbow, like I'm fascinated by the colors of a rainbow, and reasons behind it, but I'm not completely there yet, as far as like having clarity on it. And I don't try to force things. I just kind of let my mind and body naturally resonate with it. But have
I
you?
love that.
Yeah, have you, like, do you know anything about like the rainbow and the zodiac? If there's a connection, how far have you dived into that?
So I haven't done specifically, you know, trying to figure out colors and how they would, you know, work their way into the zodiac, because like you said, there is so much to it. So I haven't gotten there yet, but that's very interesting, and I will probably now be, you know,
Like,
going crazy
yeah,
looking at it. Yep. So I have a lot of Gemini traits in my chart, and so a Gemini, like, they just want the information.
yeah.
So now that we have this conversation, I will go out for the next week or two and try to figure out, you know, more about that. So
That's so
And
much.
I'll let you know. Maybe we can have another chat after I figure that out, and we can talk a
Yeah,
little bit more about that, because it is interesting.
it is. It really is. And it just kind of blows my mind on how these things are. And even like being an herbalist, like I look at herbs and the colors of flowers and things like that. I'm like, what makes this color? There's some type of chemical or chemical reaction or whatever it is that makes this color. And
Right.
it's associated with the energy from the planets because that's where we get energy and life from. So
Yes,
it's just like, it's crazy.
it is. It is. And what cracks me up too about it is I watch a lot of like science documentaries, and I'll hear a lot of astrophysicists um, very openly admitting that certain things happening in the universe have an effect on us here. But at the same time, these people are so closed off to
Yeah,
how it might affect us on a psychological level or an energetic level. They want none of it, but
right.
they'll openly talk about how it's, real in physics and true in it's just interesting to me
Yeah,
how we'll just close our mind off to things just because they don't fit with what we want to see.
exactly. Exactly. And it's unfortunate because looking at this stuff opens the door for so much. And of course, so much beautiful life experiences and just it's just so vast and so great. Um, but of course, with the world we're born in and how things are ran, it makes sense on why people don't want that to come out. But
Right.
but yeah,
Right. Well, I mean, a lot of the astrology texts that we have are locked up,
yeah,
So I know that, so in America, it's not seen as a real body of study. There's no like you can't get accredited to be an astrologer or get,
mm,
it's just not really looked at that way. But in the UK, it is, and there's I guess there's a ton of ancient texts for
yeah.
astrology that they won't allow people to come and see and read, even if they're expert astrologers. They're not allowed in,
You know
which
the
I just find to be so weird. Why? Right.
right, exactly. There must be something to it, right?
Yeah.
um, but even the information that we have, and this is we can contribute to credit to the zodiac as well on our spiritual makeup, like we talked about. Me as a Pisces, you as a Gemini, there's information that we can't access as far as books and papers and things, but we know it. Isn't it crazy?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's like a understanding we just can't articulate yet.
Yes. And I think that's why astrology was so great for me, because as I was learning and reading it, I feel like someplace inside of me already knew all of this. And
Yeah,
it felt like home in a way that Christianity, and I've tried to find things as I go, and nothing has ever felt like, wow, that makes perfect sense to me,
right,
except astrology. So you're
right.
right. When you feel it and you know that you know it inside, it's amazing.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's funny because you mentioned Christianity. I was a Christian for several years. I didn't grow up in religion, but I became a Christian because I was the same way, like seeking more understanding, a deeper understanding of life and creator and things like that. Just
Yeah.
because I was aware that something was greater than me. Um, but I was given options, right? So I had to choose an option and I chose Christianity. Um, so reading the Bible, things like that, and some things just didn't make sense to me. And I was just like, wait a minute. I eventually stepped away from it and back away from everything. And it started to come back to me in a different way, revealing itself in a different way, communicating to me in a different way. And then like this book again, the reason I love this book, even before I bought this book, again, I was like, there has to be something in this Bible that is communicating life's, if you want to say, secrets, as far as like zodiac and things like that. And it is.
It is. It is. I was going to say that there's so many astrological references in the Bible that people don't think about. Who would follow a star to find a special child, right? That's astrology. They're they're banking that someone's going to be someone's going to be born when the planets are aligned in a specific way,
Yeah.
and they're going to be special. And so these three wise men followed the star. I mean, there's a lot of little stuff like that
Yeah.
where it's definitely astrology. And it's interesting to me because a lot of religious people think that astrology is a cult and they won't go near it, or it's like superstition.
Right.
But I believe that it's part of our spiritual truth.
Right. It is. It definitely
Yeah.
is. It's part of the natural world. And if you're gonna associate God with creating the natural world, you have to look at the natural world and say, okay, well, if you want to say God somewhere and he created this, then you have, why not look at the things he created? Why dismiss it
Right.
and say, oh, that's this or that's that, when no, this has everything to do with life on this planet. So it's something
Exactly.
to look into. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. And I not to sound conspiratorial, but I do feel like things like that are so empowering for us are specifically kept on a, kept a wall between,
Definitely.
because even the Bible, I mean, if people talked about it openly, like, oh, they're bringing astrology into it, then they would lose their grip on, the followers of Christianity. So it's just
Exactly.
power struggles.
It is power struggles, and it's also people like me and you, and there's many other people, but there's like a how I explain it to some people, and how it says in the Bible. Actually, there's two Adams that were created, and there's a spiritual and then a carnal mind Adam, if you want to say. It's worded differently, but that's basically it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so crazy because a religious person would think that they're the spiritual Adam, but they don't understand what's happening with this book and how you have to it has to reveal itself in a way. It has to like unveil, if you will, because there's just so much into it, and I can go on and on about this stuff.
No, I could do. I love it. I do. It's just helped me. I'm not even the same person that I was 2 years ago,
Right.
In so many great ways. So
Right.
I would talk about this for days if I could, and especially because I think it does help. I think people need this right now,
Yeah, definitely. But it reveals itself to the people that's ready for it.
Right. Yeah.
And the people that aren't are just gonna take the other interpretation and go with that. And I had to realize that myself and be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was trying, you probably see on social media, I'm like trying to yell at people like, wait, look over here, look at this. But
Yeah.
some people aren't ready for it.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
But that's
we are really trapped right now too. I feel like, I don't know, like I don't have anything to compare it to because I've only can remember this lifetime, but I do feel like right now it's so polarized on every level, spirituality versus the people who aren't, and there's just polarization everywhere,
Yeah, there really is, and it's an unfortunate thing, but also fortunate because it is what it is. Things will turn eventually, but that's no longer my fight. My fight is to just speak to the people who are willing to hear, and I have to make sure that I'm always willing to hear as well. I'm always willing to love and accept love, so
yeah,
as long as I'm doing that, life will get better, because
right.
with my children, I try to teach them that, and eventually over time things will get better. That's my hope.
Yeah, I think that's great because how can you, I know I have 2 kids, so we have these talks a lot as well, where it's like, save yourself the frustration, because if you're trying to live in a way where you're just trying to give love and receive it back, you're going to get really frustrated trying to convince people that aren't ready to hear what you have to say.
Right.
And it's going to be very hard to take that vibration and turn it back into what you're trying to, resonate with people.
Very true. Very true.
Yeah.
It's a very powerful thing, to get consumed in that type of energy and allow it to, it's a powerful thing.
It's frustrating because
Yeah,
it's coming from a good place, you know,
right.
you want people to have the information and receive it, but I've been there too. So
Yeah,
I get it.
yeah. Well, this is great, Hillary. I really appreciate it.
Yes, I love this. Anytime you want to have a chat, or if you read the book and you have more questions that you think people maybe want to hear about, please feel free to reach out. We can do this again. It's a lot of fun.
Perfect. I love it.
Sorry about all the technical difficulties too.
No, no worries. No worries. We got it. And yeah, it was a good conversation. I really enjoyed it.
Yes, me too. And real quick, I didn't want to correct you, but I'm not actually a Gemini. I'm a
Oh,
Scorpio.
oh, okay.
But so with your chart, you've got so many planets.
Yep.
And that's another thing that I think people should know. Like, you are not just your sun sign by any means. So if you are interested in astrology, try to get your whole chart, because it can bring a lot more, it can just shed a lot more light onto astrology and who you are as a person too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So I have a lot of Gemini energy in there, but I'm not actually a Gemini, if that makes sense.
yep. Yep. So do you do readings for, not readings? Is it readings?
Yep. Yeah, it's readings or analysis, like chart analysis, but readings is probably the easiest thing to
Oh,
remember.
so you do that for
Yes,
people? Is that
I do. I'm kind of strange about it because it helped me so much that it's hard for me to put a price on it. It's hard for me to take money from people to do it.
yeah.
I just want to help. And it's funny because you brought this up, you know, to sit down and talk about this. And just last week, I had a friend reach out and say, like, you need to read my chart. And I'm not asking, I'm telling you that I'm paying you for it. And she kind of like forced me to put a price on it. So I'm getting there. I'm happy to help. If people want to reach out, I can help them. I just am not comfortable charging right now. So
Yeah.
I'll get there maybe.
Yeah, well, that's beautiful. I think that's great. Just because it can benefit so many people, and it's so great. So
Yeah.
I might reach out to you. I don't know. My girlfriend's into it as well, but
Nice.
I don't know. There's certain things I don't know about, like my birth time. I don't know my exact birth time. Um,
Okay.
I don't know what else type of information, but I know that was one piece that I was kind of unclear about, so we couldn't really get an accurate read.
Right. Right. It is hard without a birth time. There are astrologers who do what's called rectifications, and it's really in depth. And they talk to the person about certain events in their lives, and they really get down and deep with it. And they can try to find a birth time and match it up with the chart and see if it all makes sense. I
Uh,
am nowhere near being able to do that yet.
uh,
Um, but you can, there are ways to kind of, you know,
yeah,
work that out. I mean, even if you had, like, if your mom or, you know, your parents could remember like a time close to when you were born, like,
mm,
you know, a lot of parents will remember that their child was born in the morning. You
right.
know, that's at least a clue that can get you started.
Okay,
Um, yeah.
okay.
That
So
was another thing too. My grandmother, I didn't know my birth time, and my mom always just told me it was like right around 1 a.m. And that was another thing when I was going through the spiritual awakening. I was going through my grandmother's house because my grandfather just couldn't do it. He was too upset to go through her stuff. And
mhm,
I found a piece of paper where she had written down every grandchild, and they had, I think if I remember, they had 20 grandkids or 22 or something. So
mm,
she had every grandchild, their birthday, their weight, and the inches that they were when they were born. My name was the only name on that list with a birth time.
wow,
And I needed my birth time. And it was just one, I was like, what the heck is that? You know, it was just
crazy.
another crazy moment. It's like somewhere along the line, she knew that I would need that eventually, you
Right.
know?
Isn't that interesting? That's great.
It
Wow.
is. Yeah.
So how can people like benefit from getting their reading? Not, I know there's a lot of benefit. Like it can help so much, like as far as their awareness of themselves. But
Hmm.
do you find that people take that and they kind of, because I'm big on like we talked about energy, um, having good emotional EQ, IQ, however, um,
Yep.
and just leveling out your mind so there's not so much. I guess the point I'm trying to get to is as far as, so if I'm a spiritual person, right, I'm very deep in my thoughts and things like that. But
Hmm.
there could be a drawback from that. There could be a negative effect from that, unfortunately, because of the society we live in.
Yep.
But do you find it beneficial, like for you, I don't know if you like write out like a plan to like do you highlight your weaknesses and say, all right, I want to be stronger at this or not, or do you just kind of, does that make
I
sense?
do. No, it does. And
Okay.
I do that. I self-inquire a lot. It's just
Okay.
part of who I am. So I definitely will use my chart to find what I need to work on. One of my big things was childhood trauma, and
Mhm.
still feeling a little bit of resentment for that. So astrology really helped me realize that, like, we all have our own set of problems and challenges. And so if you could look at, like, I had to get past some stuff with my mom,
Mhm.
and looking at her chart helped me. I realized, like, oh my God, like, she's been through a lot of stuff that I've never considered.
Mhm.
Or I thought that I considered it, but I didn't actually, like, on an emotional level.
Right.
And so that's helped me a lot, like, to let go, to just learn to let go, and to see other people's troubles and emotional, like, traumatic stuff in their chart. And it's like, it's really helped me to not judge anymore, and to just let people be how they need to be and work through things, on their own.
Yeah.
My mom, I would love to shake her sometimes and tell her, like, this or that, but what's the point? She needs to get there, when she's ready and when she's open, like we've been talking about this whole time.
Yeah.
But it's helped me be okay with that. And we have such a great relationship now, because I'm not carrying all that crap into it. I've just stepped back. And I think that's also detachment. I started reading a little bit of Buddhist teachings, and detaching is a big part of that. And so between that and then being able to look at things astrologically, definitely I do that. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. I'm that way too as far as detachment, but a lot of people hear detachment and they think it's like a careless
Yes.
approach to life.
Apathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yes.
it's not at all.
Mm-mm. No, it's not. And it's helped me. I had lifelong anxiety. I don't have it anymore. It's just not there. And I realized through my trauma, I was trying to control too much to avoid the pain that we experience as kids. And so just understanding that and detaching a little bit has really helped. We are happier for it. My kids are happier for it. The energy in my house is different. And you're right. That's the holdout. When you first hear about detachment, you automatically think, like, I don't want to detach. That's bad. Like, I want to be attached, but it's really not. It's not healthy the way that we've started to do it.
Right, exactly. How I like to put it, or how I like to say it is that, like, living life in this world where everything moves basically, you really don't want to attach to anything, because now you're subject to the loss of it. And what would that do to you? It's not that you don't care, but there's a level of attachment that can be damaging to both parties, both people, depending on what it is or what.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Like, we don't own it. Like, a lot of the stuff that we want to attach ourselves to, we don't own. We have no business attaching to it.
exactly.
And I think a lot of we see so many toxic relationships nowadays. And I just think because we just attach to things way too quickly.
Hmm.
It doesn't need to be that way. It shouldn't be that way, in my opinion.
Love is an attachment to me. It is not attachment. It is. It's an expression. It's a verb for sure. It's an expression, but it is not an attachment.
No, it's
And
not.
because everything in life moves.
That's
So
right.
yeah,
Yeah. And if we love something, we have to let them move, and we have to let them change. And if we're smothering them and it's too attached to them, that can't happen.
right. And it's not good for anyone.
No, I agree. I
This is
agree.
great. This is great. We,
Yeah, this is awesome.
we just added another like 20 minutes.
I know that's what happens when I try
Yeah.
to say bye. I just keep going.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, we could just keep talking about this. I love it.
Well, cool. Let's keep
Yeah.
doing it. If you want to, if you get questions, feel free to send them my way, and we can meet up again and do this soon. Are you drinking pickle juice?
Oh no, this this is a herbal blend that I have in a pickle jar.
I gotcha. All right, my son drinks pickle juice. That's why I
Oh
was just
really?
curious. Yeah, he does. He loves
Oh, that's funny.
it.
I just love the
Yep.
glass.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I'm trying to get rid of plastic too. Drinking out of
yeah,
plastic stuff. Yeah.
yeah,
No.
no. Well, all
Mm-mm.
right, Hillary, thank you again.
Yes. Anytime. This
All
was
right.
awesome.
Yes, it was. We'll do it again soon.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you. You too. See you later.
Bye.